that I need to let everybody know about before we start. Donc, premièrement, pour éviter des problèmes de connexion, veuillez vous déconnecter de toute source VPN. Please disconnect from any VPN sources in order to participate. It could cause some connectivity issues. Ensuite, pour que la réunion se déroule bien, tout le monde, autre que nos présentateurs, on va vous demander de vous mettre en sourdine. So other than our presenters, everybody will be placed on mute during the meeting. You can ask questions by sending an email to questions@pafso.com, and then we will pass the questions along to the speaker after their presentation. Donc, vous pouvez nous envoyer vos questions à questions@pafso.com. Puis on va les adresser après chaque présentation. Autrement, on aura du temps à la fin de la réunion pour des questions plus générales. So we will have more time at the end of the meeting for general questions after the main presentations. Voting will be conducted by clicking on the raised hand icon that appears to the left bar in the center of your interface. Lors d'un vote, vous n'avez qu'à cliquer sur l'icône de la main et on comptera les mains. C'est aussi simple que ça. However, we would have to ask you to be patient because there is a bit of a lag for the system to count everybody's hands. So we're going to ask people to keep the hands up for a certain duration, and once they will have been counted, we will ask people to put their hands down. Donc, après que les votes seront comptés, on vous demande de vous rappeler de décliquer la main afin de baisser la main pour, avant le prochain vote. And all of the relevant documents for this meeting can be found at pafso.com/AGM2021. Tous les documents pertinents à l'Assemblée peuvent être trouvés sur notre site à pafso.com/FR/AGA 2021. Ça, ces liens-là, c'est dans le chat. C'est les premiers commentaires dans le chat. Et c'est tout. Merci. On commence tout de suite et je passe maintenant la parole à notre présidente, Pamela Isfeld.
Merci, Eric. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm Pam Isfeld, the president of PAFSO, and very happy to see that we now have way more than quorum here, and so this is great. Thank you very much for coming to our 56th annual AGM. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge that I am chairing this meeting from the traditional territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people, and we acknowledge them as the past, present, and future guardians and caretakers of this land. Eric has just run through the way we're going to go about questions and so on, but just a reminder, if you forget where to send your questions, the information is in the chat. And so we will proceed with with opening the meeting. And the first order of business is, vous pouvez voir l'ordre du jour sur vos écrans. And the first order of business is to adopt it formally. So does anyone have any proposed changes or amendments to the agenda that you would like to bring forward? If so, I suggest doing that in the chat. I am not seeing any. So is someone willing to move to adopt the agenda? You can do that by using your little hand icon. I see Michael Eystone is moving to adopt, and I see Bronson Borst. Are you willing to second? Bronson, second? So
yes, I am.
Okay, thanks, Bronson. And so could I ask everyone who is in favor of adopting the agenda to raise your hand? Okay. I'm seeing a good amount of hands. This is great. I'll give you a second.
It does take a little bit for the hands to show up and keep them up.
Yes, and I realize I think for the next routine motion, I'm just going to ask for anyone opposed, or for changes and for anyone opposed, just to make it a little bit easier. Sorry, folks.
We have 21 people in favor.
Okay, so does anyone want to go on the record as opposing the agenda?
wait for the hands to come down.
Hands down. Maybe if anyone wants to oppose the agenda, please type in the chat so that we can make sure to record that. But I'm not seeing anyone. And so okay, so thank you very much. The agenda is adopted, and so we will go forward on the basis of what you have on your screen. So Marty, could you go to the next slide? So I would just like to present the executive committee to you. I want to welcome our new members, Logan McNamara, William Dunlop, Corinne Girard, and Allison Poth, and also to welcome our returning members, Sarah Final, Iris Louis, Tam Ames, John Gossel, and Tanya Below. I want to say thank you to Emily Alexander and Baojian Tang, who are finishing their terms and aren't coming back this time around. And also continued thanks to Suhaila Elkatev, Madeline Johnson, Michael Eystone, and CJ Scott, who are going into the second year of their terms. We still have one vacancy for an FSIA member, and I understand that there is a nomination from the floor that is out there. I can't see all the hands. Eric, can you see if there's a hand up to nominate? Oh, Emily's hand up is to nominate someone. Emily, do you want to speak?
Yes, thanks. I would like to nominate Marie-Claude Harvey, who has expressed interest after the official nomination process in joining as an FSIA Executive Committee member. I can vouch for her. I've worked with her in the past, and she will be an excellent, diligent representative for the FSIA community. So I would like to nominate her. I had hoped that Tanya could second her, but it doesn't look like Tanya has joined us, so I may need to ask someone from the floor to kindly step in and second the nomination. Thanks.
We also have William's hand up.
So William, were you willing to second the nomination?
Yes, I'm willing to second the nomination.
Great, thank you very much. And I also I owe an apology to Bronson Borst, who is also finishing a term and not coming back. And I apologize for leaving him off my slide, which I expressly wrote everything out with the intention of not forgetting anybody. So thank you to all of you guys. So we have a nominator and seconder, and a motion to nominate Marie-Claude as the second FSIA member. And I think just because of the lag of hands and so on, what I'll do is I will ask, is anyone opposed to that nomination? Okay, I am not seeing any hands. So Marie-Claude, welcome to the executive committee. And I hope it will not be too scary, this whole process. With that,
Bronson has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Bronson, go ahead.
Sorry, I was trying to do a thumbs up, but I put my hand up. Sorry.
Thanks. Yeah, I know it's a little bit weird, especially if you're used to Zoom, and the icons are just different enough to be confusing. So unless someone has something, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda. Marty, can you go to the next slide? So the item here is the results of the vote on the implementation of the full-time presidency. So the vote, the direct vote on the proposition to make the full-time presidency.
My screen is just lagging a little bit.
Okay, a permanent part of PAFSO's governance structure passed with nearly 85% in favor. And the 5 amendments to the Constitution that support that implementation also passed with similar margin between 81 and 86%. So those constitutional amendments come into force tomorrow. as the day after the AGM. And when we get to my report, I will give you, we'll discuss a little bit more what the next steps and everything are. But this is a standard item where we inform you of the results of this binding vote and of the changes to the Constitution that will take effect as of tomorrow, which you've all voted on, so you know about. So that is that. The next item is the adoption of the minutes of, sorry, and I just realized I've 2019 AGM, it should be 2020 AGM. It's last year's AGM. So, so does anyone have any amendments to the document that was in your packages? I'm just waiting to give everyone a chance to put up their hands. I am not seeing anything or anything in the chat. So is there someone who is willing to move to adopt the minutes of the 2020 AGM? I see. Okay, I saw Marceline Brulat, and then who else do I see? Sorry, I'm just trying to check to see. Joelle Blais also has a hand up. So mover and seconder to adopt the minutes. And does anybody have any objection to adopting the minutes? Oh, I see one hand up. Oh, no, hand's gone down. Sorry, I know the lag on this is a little bit unnerving. Good thing we're not auctioning off anything expensive here. So the minutes are adopted, and we can move on to the next item. So the next item, the President's report. I just wanted to noter que nous répondrons aux questions après que la directrice exécutive aura terminé son rapport, because there's quite a bit of overlap between Kim Cole's, our executive director's report, and mine. And so we thought it would make sense to hold the questions until the two of us have finished, just so that we're not going into each other's territory. I think you'll have a fuller picture of what we've been up to after you've heard a little bit from both of us. First of all, I wanted to acknowledge that really we're coming to kind of the end of an era at PAFSO in a couple of different ways. One of them was that Deborah Hulley, who had worked with PAFSO for 45 years as the Director of Administration, has taken her retirement. And because of COVID-19, she asked us not to hold off on organizing any kind of a retirement event for her. But we invited, in September when she retired, we've invited people who have messages for her to send them to the office, info@pafso.com, and we will pass them on to her. And then we will definitely, as soon as things permit and we can speak to her about what to do, we will organize some kind of an event for her. Because, I mean, she was really a key figure in PAFSO for such a long time. She was the motivating force behind our magazine, Bout de Papier, and she was also a founder of the Foreign Service Officer Awards. So, and really the driving force behind those two things and many others for many years. So her moving on from PAFSO is a big deal and will be a big change for the association. We also note that Richard Ballhorn, Dick Ballhorn, has also stepped down as the president of our insurance committee after many years. And we will miss him and his expertise as well. So anyone who is out there thinking that there's like to get involved in PAFSO's insurance program and those issues, please, drop us a line, because we're going to be looking for somebody to fill some pretty big shoes there. And finally, I mean, many of us were very sad in September when we heard of the passing of Randy Orr, who was a member of PAFSO for 32 years and who was on the executive committee for at least a decade, I think longer. He was on the executive committee when I was president of PAFSO from 2009 to 2011. And I believe he had been on for most of the time since then. So you know, for a long time, he was the only immigration member that we had on the executive committee. And he always worked very hard to make sure that the voice of our immigration stream was heard. And he worked very closely with us and with the management and colleagues at immigration to make sure that, you know, new officers were welcomed and that there were regular professional development and networking activities. And in honor of that, we decided the executive committee has started an award in his name for community service. Service to the FS community, because we've kind of felt for a while that that was something that was missing in the PASO awards, that's an award for professional performance, and we've kind of missed something for people who have done something for the community. So we thought that that was a good way to remember Randy, and we've informed the family, and they're very happy about that. And over the next few months, we will be looking for people to join us in a committee that will figure out how that award will work and how to find nominations and so on. So another opportunity for people who would like to get involved in PAFSO, you know, but perhaps have not been able to, you know, think of the time for the executive committee. So that will be something positive as well. Marty, could I have the next slide? So, I mean, just to state the obvious, as it feels like you do in a lot of this kind of a report, we have continued, like everybody else, to have our work landscape dominated by COVID-19. To be honest, I mean, I really did not expect the fourth wave myself. I thought that we would be by now coming to the end of a lot of these things. And, you know, it's turned out that these issues have taken up a lot of our time and a lot of PAFSO's energy, because they have caused a lot of issues for you as our members and for the Foreign Service community as a whole. The National Joint Council's task force has continued to meet. It's gone from last year, you know, at the beginning, at least it was multiple times a week to once a week, to now the regular meetings are every 2 weeks, but they're still continuing. And we had more than 40 of them in the past year. I counted up, and I counted up at least 25 formal meetings with GAC, IRCC, and TBS since the last time I reported to you. But I think there actually have been, you know, there have been many, many more informal meetings. We've been conducting advocacy on the vaccination situation, the mandated vaccinations in Canada, and the delivery of vaccinations at post, other occupational health and safety issues, both you know, related to the pandemic and others, and other ongoing issues that are exacerbated in some ways by the pandemic. The whole issue of FSD 64, I mean, nobody's been FSD 64 since last year, but some people are still experiencing you know, the ongoing effects of not having claims properly settled. Questions of travel, you know, other FSDs and so on associated with that. 699 leave for people who need leave for childcare or other caregiving responsibilities or other issues that are outside their control. Issues surrounding remote work, where people can work from, how they can work. Finally, you know, we're now starting to look at things like the return to work. And I just got today GAC's GBA Plus framework for assessing how the return to work should be handled. So that's going to be interesting to see how all of that works, because we see that, you know, the changes to the way that we're going to be working seem to be enduring. They're not, they're going to have implications beyond the pandemic. You know, all the plans that we've seen for the return to the workplace foresee hybrid or remote models, work from anywhere in Canada anyway, and all of those kinds of issues. And those are going to have implications for us. Both, I think, in terms of how our members are going to work, but also for, you know, for the configuration of the Foreign Service. I mean, unfortunately, you know, we're hearing rumblings that, you know, some people in management are looking and saying, well, you know, if you have X number of people working remotely at post, working from home, do those people really need to be in country, or can we manage some functions from Canada? And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and what that means to all of you in terms of postings and career opportunities. You know, the COVID-19, like we said last year, has really highlighted a lot of ongoing gaps in the system. We see all of the issues of how assignments are handled, how removals and relocations are handled, gaps in staffing in key parts of the organization. The FSDs have been a particular pain point for many people. So part of the strategic plan that was adopted last year calls for us to do a comprehensive analysis of all of these issues, and we are working on that. Unfortunately, we haven't managed to come to the end of it to do any kind of a lessons learned, but we are working on that, and we'll be reporting to you on what we conclude over the coming weeks and months. Can I have the next slide, Marty? So just a little bit more on the issue of the vote and the decision that was made. So that fulfills one of our objectives in the strategic plan as well, changing deciding on that model and revising the Constitution. You'll also recall from the vote that there were a couple of other amendments that were passed, including updating our value statement at the beginning of our Constitution to reflect diversity and inclusion and the values that were adopted in the strategic review the previous year. So the next steps are that an election needs to take place before the end of next April. And so what we will do is we will form a committee, an elections and nominations committee, that will decide on exactly the mechanism for these elections. So again, I hope you're picking up on a theme that there is another opportunity for people to get involved with PAFSO. The constitutional amendments that we passed call for at least one member of that committee to be somebody who is not on XCOM. So we'll be reaching out to all of you to see if anyone is willing to help us out with that. And the person who is elected at the end of April will start their term in August, and that is that'll be a 3-year term. So those are the highlights of that, but it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Otherwise, aside from those big issues, we've really been having to focus and, look at our priorities quite strictly given, the volume of work and the volume of issues that are facing us. So we have been focused quite closely on meeting the priorities in the strategic plan. So we completed our initial GBA Plus framework analysis. Just to be clear, that's not the framework, a GBA Plus framework itself. That is a much bigger kind of policy implementation package, and we're nowhere near that. But we completed an initial framework analysis, which really identified the main issues that we think are facing our members in terms of diversity and inclusion, and starting to get a sense of how some of those issues might have intersectional impacts on people. If you're a member of more than one equity-seeking group, you can face all kinds of different problems than might initially sort of be identified. So our next step is to validate those issues that came out in the analysis. And we're going to be going forward with some of those in connection to our triennial survey and some additional follow-up consultations to get a sense of, okay, we think that we know what we're talking about, but did our research actually bring out what is important to people? We also had in the strategic plan, and after we do that, then we will develop the medium-term action plan. That will be the next steps in getting ultimately to a comprehensive GBA Plus policy framework for PAFSO. We also had the objective of paying attention to the integration of the Foreign Service International Assistance stream. And we did that by forming a task force, which was chaired by Emily Alexander, our outgoing FSIA vice president, who has completed a report that identifies some of the main issues of concern to our FSIA colleagues. So the task force has come to its end, has completed its job, but the work has not, and we're committed to making sure that that group feels really integrated into PAFSO and that they they see that their concerns have been addressed. We also promised we were calling it PAFSO's Got Your Back, but we learned that apparently that does not translate into French in any kind of good way. So it's called PAFSO is Here for You, our awareness campaign. And some of you will have seen some of that. And that is just to bring to your attention some of the specific ways that PAFSO works for you to support you on different types of issues. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, it would be definitely worth checking out. Our Triennial Survey, as I mentioned, will launch soon, and that is our main tool to gather data, concrete data, and your views in preparation for upcoming collective bargaining, the cyclical review of the FSDs, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very important to us to have a picture of who makes up our membership and what your main issues are, so that we can, we know where to act and how to channel our efforts and resources. We do have an ongoing concern and growing concern about psychological well-being, both GAC and IRCC and in missions abroad, and occupational health and safety. As I mentioned, the COVID situation has really highlighted the gaps in many of these systems. And I have the additional hat of psychological well-being co-champion at Global Affairs. And while I found that portfolio to be quite useful in getting me a seat at the table for some of the discussions on what is going on in terms of the psychological health atmosphere in the department, I have to say it's good to be there at these discussions, but the rubber is really not meeting the road. So that is one area where we have a new champion now and a new point person in management at Global Affairs on psychological well-being. And I'm hoping that, now we will finally be able to land on a strategy and actually have something to concretely move forward on, because that's one area where I feel like I have not been able to get the traction that I would like to have. Bout de Papier, we also promised that we would look at Bout de Papier and reboot it and relaunch it. So we had Dan Livermore, we have him to thank for the initial reboot, and then now Lillian Thompson has taken over as our editor-in-chief, new editor-in-chief, and she is working on the new vision of the magazine. So I'm just going to turn over the floor to her to give you a very quick update on what she has been doing with Boo, and then that will be the end of this President's Report. Thanks. Over to you, Lillian, if you're there.
I am in fact here. Oops, I will turn my camera on. I think I can do that. And I will be very brief. Thank you very much, Pam, for the kind words. I don't quite know how I wound up doing this, but I have, and I'm actually very pleased. I recognize a number of the names on the list as I've seen people check in, but just a quick 30-second capsule history. I was a Foreign Service officer until the end of 2016. I, in fact, served on the PAFSO executive many years ago, and obviously knew Deborah Hulley and other members of the team at the time. In terms of Bout de Papier, the plan is for 3 print issues every year to be supplemented by articles, individual articles online. Eric Schallenberg and I are working very diligently on getting the next issue out, which should come out at the beginning of early December. And there'll be a number of articles in there, which I hope you'll find interesting, including on Afghanistan, including on the vision for Africa in the wake of the dissolution of the Soviet Union 30 years ago. Pour ceux qui ont vu le reportage sur RDI la semaine dernière au sujet de la fameuse match de hockey entre l'Union soviétique et le Canada, next year, September, will mark the 50th anniversary. So we are looking at doing a sports-themed issue of Bout de Papier, obviously not just about hockey. So would look forward to any and all of you engaging with myself or with Eric as we move forward to try to keep a steady stream of content going. And I'll leave it at that for now, and hope to hear from some of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lillian. That was great, and we really appreciate your efforts. So I will turn over now to Kim. Marty, can you go to the next slide? I will turn over to our Executive Director, Wen Back, for her report. Oh, Kim, you're on mute.
I pressed the camera, but I didn't press the microphone. Hi, everybody. Great to see everybody participate today in our 56th annual general meeting. Just to jump into my report, there's a few things that Pam's already mentioned, but we have a lot of successes. So it's really great to sort of reiterate the positive news, because we know it's been challenging last couple of years. So it's always good to be able to talk about the positive as much as we can. So, you know, 2021 has been a year full of work, another full year of working through the COVID-19 pandemic. And as such, all our operations remain virtual, with employees working remotely as a general rule. Once again, I'm proud to report that our PAFSO team has surmounted several challenges to ensure that its services to you, the membership, has been unimpeded. In fact, in 2021, the PAFSO office has not simply survived, but we've thrived. We've embraced innovation. We've moved in when we're making some changes. We look to the future to see how we could do things differently. And it's very exciting to see those things come through. And that began, we began the year with some really rigorous governance training for the new executive committee. This was done with an eye on upcoming changes to PAFSO's governance structure that would result from the completion of the full-time presidency pilot project that Pam has mentioned. Along with the strategy and planning sessions followed to ensure that the plan first proposed in 2018 remained relevant to our objectives and timelines. And I'm proud to say, yes, it did. Throughout the year, the governance subcommittee set out its recommendations, including amendments to the PAFSO Constitution that would enable us to move forward with a full-time president at our helm. And we've made great gains in regards to having this position full-time. In September, the recommendations and amendments that were put forward to the membership-wide vote, and all the propositions passed with an 80 to 85% share of the vote, as Pam has also mentioned. It was a great well of support to see that come through, so we're very pleased with those results. And as Pam mentioned, the elections for the new president will be held in the spring of 2022, and they will then start their term, their 3-year term, in August. January also saw the revival of our flagship magazine, the Bout de Papier, as both Pam and Lillian has mentioned. And we are glad to see that get started off with a production of 2 issues released, one in March and June, and now we're working, as Lillian has mentioned, on the 3rd one. And we also had another milestone, the establishment of the online presence of the publication. In the late spring, boutdepapier.ca was launched, and now members can read and share select feature articles online. So once again, we're embracing technology and making it, allowing for us to have better member engagement. This year, we saw the return of the PAFSO's beloved awards program, albeit in a novel and virtual format. As such, you know, we were unable to hold the gala event, which has always been popular in the previous years, but the awards committee set out to produce a video to celebrate the winners of the PAFSO awards, and it was released online. The video proved very popular, and several of our members around the world organized watch parties to celebrate the great work of our colleagues. And it's also a product that we can use to highlight the work and the value of the work that's being done by our FS members around the world. In our upcoming commitment to embrace diversity and equality, PAFSO hired a master's student this summer to complete a GBA plus analysis framework for the issues identified in both the FS collective agreement and also the FSDs. Victoria Upton worked diligently on this and made some great gains in this short term she was on this project. And now the recommendations she's put forward are under review by the executive committee, as Pam has mentioned, to discuss next steps in developing an action plan. I'm just going to have a little drink of water here. PAFSO's communication committee was really busy in 2021. We wanted to ensure that we kept communications out to our membership, and now we're virtual. And as such, we've held various social media campaigns, including an awareness campaign for the formerly detained Michaels, They have put their energy into a campaign that is a goal to increase member engagement in our association. Along with, as Pam has mentioned, the PAFSO is Here For You campaign, which is currently in the works and was actually launched last week. Another of the communication committee's priorities for this year has been the latest edition of the Triennial Survey. And this survey is essential to help guide our efforts for the upcoming years. And we should have that information out shortly. And we really stress that your participation would be to encourage it so that we can have as much feedback as we can in order to ensure that we have the pulse point of the issues and concerns that are facing you, our members in the field, both here in Canada and abroad. 2021 has proved to be an incredibly busy year for our labor relations team. Once again, the pandemic has brought a wide range of challenges to the team, and once again, they've been able to secure several positive outcomes for our members, such as a grievance pertaining to assistance for principal residents being upheld by the employer. And our big recent win was a staffing grievance, which was filed in 2015 on an FS3 competition and was presented in front of the board and received a ruling that the employer did abuse its authority in the assessment of a member's application. This is a big win for us, and we can use it as jurisprudence going forward for fair and reasonable screening processes in the staffing competitions. Following PAFSO's intervention, assistance was provided by the employer to employees whose dependent students were unable to travel to post during the summer 21 break period due to the pandemic-related travel restrictions. We also had a grievance supported by PAFSO that pertained to the education assistance at Lacey in Canada and was upheld by the National Joint Council, along with an amount owed by a PAFSO member to the employer stemming for an overpayment. We were able to have that reassessed and reduced following our intervention. A common law partner status was acknowledged by the employer following PAFSO's intervention as well. We also had a grievance supported pertaining to relocation expenses, and 2 grievances on the PMA-related issues were resolved informally, along with a resolution of over 22 long-standing Phoenix Pay-related issues. We have seen the numbers come down in Phoenix Pay, but there is some still outstanding, and we're working diligently on those to have those resolved. And as Pam mentioned, 2021, we saw an end of an era on September 8th by having Deborah Hawley, our long-term employee and true heart of PASO for over 45 years, retire as our Director of Administration. Deborah was the heart and soul, but also the gatekeeper of corporate knowledge in regards to PAFSO. So when Deborah went off, it was shortly before I started, it was such a challenge to be able to get that information. And we're now finally trying to fill that gap from her, but her legacy is so long in regards to the BOO and the PAFSO awards. And she devoted herself since '76 to supporting the executive committee and serving the membership. I think that's a huge record and a huge legacy for both PASO and Deborah to be proud of. And we're very pleased for her to be able to go into her next new chapter for her well-deserved retirement. I'm also pleased to announce of a recent achievement that we're able to obtain in October, earlier this month. We were able to negotiate a tentative agreement with the PASO Staff Union, and I would like to thank all parties involved. It is a top priority for our organization to ensure that our staff's terms and conditions of employment are in alignment with the collective agreements of other associations and unions in the National Capital Region. In other matters, the 2022 PAFSO desk calendar has arrived from the printers, and so to ensure that you receive your copy, please forward your mailing address to the PAFSO office at info@paso.com. As well, please be sure to check out our group life insurance programs and other significant member discounts on our website at paso.com. Every day of living and working through this enduring pandemic brings new challenges, but you know, PASO is here for you, and we want to emphasize that in regards to our campaign, but also to remind you of what role we play and how we can assist you and your colleagues in these challenging times. And we want to ensure you to reach out to us and for any issues or concerns you may have, and find out what services are available to you as our valued members. So please take care and be safe, and thank you for all that you do. And back to you, Pam.
I have to do that at least once, try to talk while I'm muted. So thank you to Kim, to you, and to all of the team in the PAFSO office. I know people have been working extremely hard under the same difficult conditions that the members are facing. So I think that's very important for everyone to remember that, you know, they've really done an excellent job in maintaining the same standards. And, you know, in some ways, I mean, I think for us working virtually has been very good. We've got better participation at these AGMs and at our professional development events than we had traditionally when we were trying to do things in person. So, you know, when we do our lessons learned, I think there are going to be a few good things about this as well, positive things that we've learned that are coming out of that. So I think I am not seeing any questions in the chat, but Eric, did you get any questions from the email?
No, I have not received any questions.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see Mathieu has his hand up. Mathieu, would you like to ask a question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so my question, I tried to put it in the chat as well, but maybe it was a little too last minute. With regards to all the grievances that have so successfully defended recently, I would like to know if it's possible, or if it's already done, maybe I missed it, to get some kind of a summary, because in many cases, for instance, when it comes to FSDs, the FSD division is rarely forward in telling us what we're entitled to, so we kind of have to read and interpret our own, and then if we think that we're entitled to something and they won't do it, then we can discuss with our colleagues on the Facebook page or ask fast. So, but if you could, maybe not here, like I'm not expecting this here, but like if those could be included in bout de papier or on the website, just a summary of the implications, because reading the decisions is also a bit lengthy and complicated, but essentially like member wanted this, and then that's what members are entitled to now.
Thanks, Matthew. What we do, and then, well, in regards to official grievances, those decisions are actually put on the websites by both the board and the National Joint Council. So they can be searched via that for the FSDs. So those would be in there, and actually they are already summarized, so that is existing already. But I can definitely have Paul do up a summary, and we can look at having that posted maybe on our website. In regards to the informal, we're unable to do that because that is an informal grievance, and as such, some of that information would be pertain to that circumstance. So we can definitely do it for the formal grievances for sure. But that's where they can be found right now in regards to the NJC website.
Yeah, I mean, and we try. Sorry, Matthew, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Go ahead.
I just said thank you.
Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, we do try when we have a big thing, like we had one where we got a victory at the PSLRB on a promotion. I mean, and that's a huge deal. But we have to be careful about exactly what we say, right? Because those are individual grievances put forward by one person. And so while it may have, like, we may be able to go back and refer to some of those decisions, it's, you know, it's not always clear, like, people are not always as comparable as they think they are, you know, depending on what exactly the person's background was, who's filing the grievance, and all of that. So sometimes it can be a bit of an issue of expectations management as well in sharing some of that information. You know, like that victory didn't mean that everybody else who had a complaint was gonna get anything out of that. You know, it's more complicated.
And what I would say, the best step is to reach out to us and talk about your circumstances so that you can get the advice that pertains to your particular situation.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. I mean, like sadly, that has to be the answer. And I know sometimes people get a bit tired of hearing that, like go talk about your individual circumstance. But, for better or for worse, and it can go either way. Like sometimes you might find out that your individual circumstance actually gives you some options that the person sitting next to you doesn't have. But you have to talk to one of the labor relations professionals to get to that situation. So Kim, somebody's asking how many, Marcy-Lynn Brulat is asking, how many HR grievances are still ongoing and how old is the oldest? Do you know that, or?
No, that the inventory that goes in, because we're not always the ones presenting or representing. So what they'll do is they'll put out the schedule in regards to the hearings for that on the Federal Public Service Labor Relations and Employment Board. And they will actually also put in their decisions. So those can be searched in regards to staffing by category. So you can see them in there, but no, it's years. So that last one we just got the decision, it was 2015. So,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
a lot
that
of
was from
things
the
comes out
previous FS3 competition, like not the one that you guys just did, but the previous one. And that was the one person, I gotta say, who stuck it out. A lot of people look at those and say, well, we're not, it's not worth it. Well, if you withdraw, then you're not going to get that decision, right? So it's testimony to the persistence of the person, and we have to thank them for
it was
that.
the merits of that case, Pam.
And the merit, exactly.
It was the merits of that case, yeah.
They do work quite hard to discourage people from doing this. That was a GAC FS3 competition from 2015. It's in the decision at the board and in our messaging from, I think we got word, what was it, in August? So it's a GAC. It was a GAC case. If nobody else has any other questions, I think we could move on. We have a scheduled 5-minute break, and then we will come back and we will have Michael do his treasurer's report. So does anybody else have any questions? Going once, twice? Eric, any questions on
Nothing came through
okay.
email.
Okay, so we'll take a 5-minute break and we'll be back at 4:56 Ottawa time and go on from there. Thanks. Hi, everybody. I hope you had a chance to have a break. So our next item is the Treasurer's Report. And Michael, are you there?
I am.
Excellent. Over to you.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. Before I start on my report, I'm just going to comment that I thought that the discussion now just about reporting on some of the work that the Secretariat does on grievances was an interesting set of questions that, you know, whether we can publish data obviously on individual ones or not. I think it might be really interesting to think about talking a little more about some of the tremendous work, because that is one of the primary services provided to members, so that maybe we could think about some aggregate numbers that we might want to report on in the future. But so I appreciate that. So turning to the Treasury Report. So I must confess I didn't realize I was going to be doing a membership report. So you've seen the documents. I don't quite 100% understand why it would seem that our membership went down over the 2 reference periods looked at there, because in fact, as we know, our membership is in fact going up, or has gone up, with the addition of the IA group to the association bargaining unit. I'm looking at the audited financial statements. I'm going to be very brief. They're all up on the website there for anybody who wants to look. And if there are any questions about specific items, I will listen carefully and then go back to the accountant to get the answer. But in brief, our revenues held up well. We had anticipated a growth in dues income based on the growth in the membership with the incorporation of the IA stream into the FF. And we did see that. We also got a recovery from where we were missing money because of dues revenue because of Phoenix, and also we recovered some prior years dues revenue. So our income held up and actually ended up doing quite well, where at the same time our expenditures were actually down, of course, because of all the things we couldn't do and all the things that were canceled, and lots of sort of less travel and all that. So in fact, we ended up with a very comfortable surplus last year. Difficult to say, of course. It was such an unusual year. We don't want to count on that being a permanent thing, but if we turn to the budget, you can see that we've pulled together a relatively conservative budget based on last year's performance, but based on our expectations, and I think quite reasonable expectations for both revenue and expenditures. And I would note that we have managed to incorporate the full-time paid presidency within the existing fiscal framework. We think there's sufficient room in there, so I think that suggests that this is something that we can afford to do. And then I'm just going to finally talk about, I had hoped to do it for this year's AGM. It looks like it's now going to be next year's AGM. We've been working with the auditor, with the accounting office of Boris Wilson, to do a bit of a sort of a cleanup of both the way that we're presenting and the way that we're tracking some of our financial information, to make some of this a bit clearer. I know that these financial statements and budgets are a bit tricky to read and kind of hard to get into, and we're going to try and do it with a bit more clarity. We're going to reduce some of the numbers of some of the categories that we're reporting on, and maybe provide a bit more context around some of those. But that's a project that we've been working on for a year now. Hard to believe, but we are making progress on that, and we look forward to next year presenting a little bit simpler, a little bit clearer, a little bit easier to understand. But the key messages from this are that the association remains in good financial shape. We have a plan going forward that is prudent. We have a good set of financial reserves available to us, and of course, we're in the fortunate position so far of having had, despite what we may have heard about potentially some future fiscal constraint on part of the government, which of course is always a concern for us. We are doing well as an association in terms of managing our finances, in terms of growing our membership base based on not just the FSIAs, but also the new crop of FS1s, which are coming up soon. So far, FS have done reasonably well in the last while, and we anticipate that the association is on a sustainable footing going forward. So that's all I really have from me. And if there are any questions, and can people hear me?
Thank you, Michael.
I see in the chat people couldn't.
Eric, do you have any questions in the email from anyone? From Michael?
Nope, no questions have come in.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions that they'd like to raise now? I am not seeing any hands or anything in the chat. So I guess we could proceed with a motion to adopt the audited financial statements for December from ending in 2020. So does, oh, okay. Sorry, great. I'm seeing lots of hands and I can't keep up. So how about, Mathieu, do you want to move and Marcy-Lynn Brulat seconds? Is that okay? And then maybe I will ask if anyone, or are you guys wanting to ask questions?
Nope, I want to move with it.
Okay, so if that's okay, Mathieu and Marcy-Lynn Brulat, and then if anyone is opposed, maybe I'll ask you guys to take your hands down. Is anyone opposed to the adoption of these financial statements? I am not seeing anybody, so those are passed. And so then we need to adopt the budget for 2022. So I see Sarah has her hand up. Sarah, are you willing to move? Is that Sarah Finnell? I hope. It's a, if not.
Yep, got my hand up.
Okay, sorry. And someone else willing to second? I see Allison Poff, are you willing to second? Thanks, I see lots of hands, it's great enthusiasm, but I saw you first.
Yeah.
Okay, so is anyone opposed to the adoption of the budget? Oh, so Marcy and Mathieu, I see you still have your hands up. Are those residual hands?
You have an instrument variable problem, Pam. You're asking people to both vote and to move and to object at the same time.
I know. I still need to get used to the like hand up, hand down. We need different like maybe you need a red hand if you want to stop something and a green hand to vote for it, something like that. Okay, Mathieu and Marcy, I'm assuming that you are not voting against because you had your hands up for other reasons. But if I've got you wrong, type in the chat. And in any case, I think you're outvoted and the budget passes. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, my hand should be down. Is it still up?
Because it's still up.
Showing that it's down.
Okay, yours is down. Okay, then Sarah's hand was up again. Sarah, did you want to talk?
No, on my screen, my hand is down, so I don't know what else to do.
Okay, I think there's a lag, yeah. So nobody's hand is up right now, so I'm assuming everyone likes the budget, and then we can go ahead. Thanks for your patience, everybody. It's always an adventure. So with that, we can go on. Marty, can we have the next slide? So that is questions stemming from the reports. So Marty is going to answer any questions related to the insurance report because Dick Ballhorn is not with us. And then the other report that was given to you was the report of the professional committee. And then I'm not sure if there were other reports. If there were, now is your chance to ask any questions. So Eric, did you get any questions in the email?
No questions have come through.
Okay. Anybody, any questions? And you can either speak or put them in the chat.
I can give a brief overview of the life insurance thing if you want, Pam.
Yeah, do you want to we'll just run through that for folks? That'd be great.
Sure. There wasn't not much change from last year when Dick Ballhorn gave the presentation till now. We do have we had many new people join when we ran a small just email blast, especially beneficial to the new FS. So we encourage as many new people to sign up because we need to keep the program healthy. And then as members continue to reach their retirement age or terminate the contract, because there was a big rotation, we just continue to promote it. And every 3 years, PAFSO speaks with Canada Life, and we're doing those negotiations this fall. And to remind everyone that if you have life insurance and you move out of Ontario, Quebec, or Manitoba, you don't have to pay your provincial tax on it. So you can always reduce the premiums whenever that happens. That's about it.
Thanks. Good to know. Did we? I mean, we got a bunch of new members earlier in the fall. Did people sign up? Like, how is our marketing going for that?
Many new people did, but the biggest thing is to increase awareness from new GAC FS. That's the. And then once people are aware of it, usually they have a pretty good decision because the program is designed to serve PAFSO members, specifically overseas, where members have reported difficulty finding programs.
Thanks. And that's another area, that's a good point that you make, that we need to raise awareness among GAC members, because that was always an area that Randy had very well covered at IRCC, and making sure that new members knew about that program that was available to them. So it's another area where we're going to feel his loss for a while, I think. I see Tam has her hand up, maybe to talk about the comms committee and what they've been up to. Tam, go ahead.
No, that's not. I have a question for Marty.
Oh, okay.
My question is, you said since we don't have to pay tax, is that like we have to tell you, or like, because I've never mentioned to anyone that I've been living outside of Canada for the last 2 years. So maybe I'm paying tax. I don't know. Is it endemic on the member to inform the insurance, or does it get backdated, or what? How does that work, Barney?
It's a very good question, because COVID, with many people going back and forth to post or coming to back, it was difficult to keep back. It helps when you inform us, but generally we use the assignment list. So wherever we have on your assignment list, you usually reach out, and then it's just a quick confirmation email.
Okay. Great.
Good to know. So maybe that's something I'll get a few lines from you, and maybe in one of my next president's messages, I could just issue a little reminder to people to do that, because I suspect that maybe some people don't know. So thanks. So are there any? I'm not seeing any other hands or questions. So
I see that Allison has her hand up.
Oh, Allison, go ahead.
Sorry, it was down. I've put it up to see if that will take it down.
So do you want to ask a question or no?
No question.
Okay. It's like, maybe it's just the system is just randomly picking people and making me draw attention to you to make you talk. So, okay, so
I'll just speak on behalf of the comms committee, because I know we have a lot of people on the call who are not on XCOM. You do not have to be on the XCOM to be part of the comms committee. If the idea of being involved in that is of interest to you, we're happy to have people who are outside of PAFSO XCOM on the committee. We're always looking for people to take on special projects, special campaigns. So if anyone on the call, and you don't have to be in my time zone or the Ottawa time zone. So if you're interested at all, let me know.
Okay, as you're saying that, I am typing in the chat all the areas that have come up where we've said we could use help from members who would like to get involved, just so everyone can see. But thank you for that. Same with the professional committee. If you're interested in helping us organize breakfasts or other professional committee events, I mean, we have our Tradecraft Week that's going on right now. Hopefully it will be a success, and it'll be something that we can build on and do something with next year as well. And we're always looking for ideas and for people to help out. We would really like to do some stuff on the whole reconciliation issue and what that means to PAFSO. We really want to do something that's focused, that is really related to our work and our situation. Something that only Foreign Service officers are working on, and we think that there are areas that we should be looking at where we can really make a difference to the perspective that people have, and we're looking for some input and ideas on how exactly to go about that. If nobody has any more questions, we will go on to the next item, which conveniently is members' business and general questions. So this is your opportunity to raise questions or to or issues, motions, if you have anything that you would like to ask us to do that didn't fit under any of the other items. So you can either email those to Eric at the questions@pafso.com, or you can raise your hand or put things in the chat. Not seeing any. Very quiet group.
Yeah, nothing coming through so far.
Okay. Well, I guess I will take that we have that we've dazzled you with all of the hard work that PAFSA has been doing in the past year, and we've stunned everyone into silence because they weren't sure what exactly was going on. And I urge you to come join us at 6 o'clock, where we've got our next Foreign Service Tradecraft event with Michelle Samon of Lumina Consulting, who's going to be talking to us about leadership. And then tomorrow we have 2 more events. At 9 o'clock, we have a session chaired by Mary Claude, our new FSIA member, executive committee member, on a day in the life of the FSIA officers, and also a session in the afternoon with Professor Jamie Essex, who is the professor who's spoken to us a couple times now about the GAC-CETA amalgamation and the various issues that have come up with that. And he's sort of also broadened his research to look at, cultural issues and workplace issues at GAC, and has come up with some very interesting conclusions that I think have broader implications. I mean, I know, for our IRCC members, I don't want to be talking constantly about GAC, but you guys are also affected by GAC culture, especially when you are at missions abroad. So I think that this could be something that would be very interesting for everybody. And then I can't remember what's on the rest of the schedule, but we've got 3 more days, and then on Friday we have a pub quiz. So in order to be to win at the pub quiz at 5 o'clock, you're going to need to have attended as many of the sessions as you can, because we're going to be drawing on fun, bits of trivia. I have one on what hours do the monkey police in India work. That's drawn from this morning's session with heads of mission, in response to what is the weirdest thing or funniest thing that you ever did in your job as a head of mission. So there was a point made about the hours of something called the monkey police, and that's going to be in the tradecraft thing. So I hope you'll have a chance to come and join us. And since I'm not seeing any more hands or any more questions in the chat, CJ, I see you were talking about the trade day on Thursday, October 28th, where you're chairing a session on women in trade. Does anybody organizing a session or anything want to talk about what they're doing and try to drum up some participation?
Hi, it's Allison.
Hi, Allison.
So I have the honor of being the last session on Friday, and I have 3 colleagues from around the world who are talking about a day in the life of an RPM. So anybody who's ever kind of wondered, what do we do every day? What are kind of some interesting stories? If you have any questions about emergency management or mission security, this is the session to join. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me ahead of time.
Thank you. That sounds like that's going to be interesting. Someone is asking, what is an RPM? And I mean,
So
maybe you have to, yeah.
Yeah, so an RPM is a readiness program manager. There aren't that many of us around the world. We tend to be in the more difficult missions, as well as Tokyo, London, Paris, and Washington. But a lot of us are found, for example, Jordan, Ramallah, Tel Aviv, Riyadh, Cairo, Tunis. Hang on, I have a truck about to back into me as I'm driving. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. If you're curious about the session, or again, if you're not sure what an RPM is, it's going to be a good session. We have colleagues joining from Manila, Beirut, and London.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, don't say too much more because you don't want to ruin the incentive to come to the session. So hopefully that piqued your curiosity.
The three that are there, yeah, the three that are there will have really good stories as well. I'll try and get them to throw a few of those in, as well as kind of the day-to-day stuff.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And Tam, I see you have your hand up.
I may as well promote mine as well. CJ's doing the Women in Trade session on Thursday morning, and I am doing a promotion of Indigenous business on Thursday evening. I know for people in Europe that doesn't work, but CJ's probably doesn't work for people in Asia. So we're doing mine for the Asia side. It's at 8 o'clock Thursday night, and we have speakers from Beijing, Sydney, Vancouver, and Seattle talking about promotion of Indigenous ideas and hopefully sharing some ideas to get us motivated in places where we haven't yet tackled that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah, unfortunately, we have not found a cure for time zones in this whole thing, except for the idea of recording everything and putting it all on our YouTube channel so that people who can't be there in person can watch later. So I'm afraid that's the best we can do. But hopefully, you know, we have a fair variety of time. So hopefully, if you're interested, you will be able to make it to at least one or two of the things. On that note, I am not seeing more hands or more questions. And we do have another session starting at 6. So Marty, maybe I could have the next slide. Where I want to say au revoir et merci tout le monde. And I do need somebody, a final motion. If you had your hand up and you didn't, I didn't tag you for a motion. Oh, Mathieu, okay, you want to move to adjourn? I think it's become a tradition that Mathieu is the adjourning person. And CJ, you were seconding the motion to adjourn? Does anyone object to adjourning? Tam, is that an objection to adjourning, or Joe? I hope not. It's okay. So
down. I thought my hand was down. This thing's crazy.
It's weird. I think there's a lag. There is a weird lag. But thank you to everyone, and thanks to everyone who helped put this meeting together. Thanks to Marty and Eric in particular for running the questions and the slides and so on, and to all of you for participating. And I hope to see you at the 6 o'clock event, and if not at the 6 o'clock event, at something else later in the week. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Au revoir.
Merci. Thanks.